Hey, what's going on? Welcome to Crush This, a Monster Truck podcast. I wish I could talk today. Sponsored by JConcepts and High Octane Coffee. Once again, thank you to JB Scale Graphics, Back Channel Productions, MTRC, Hall Brothers Racing, Justin Stories. Once again, get this awesome during Christmas time. Woo. Let me get this out here 1 second for you folks. Making tracks right there. The camera's a little bit bright. There we go. I got it there. Cool. $10 a pop. Message Justin Stories. Go to Amazon.com. It's a cool comic book for kids, all sorts. Want to thank once again Hall Brothers Racing for these awesome upside down there decals that you'll see on some of the trucks and stuff like that. So it's pretty cool seeing that stuff too. MTRC. Take a look at his stuff going on right now. They're on YouTube. Pretty cool too. Thank you for all the support and also the intro video that we have and Crush This. Also, want to put the ticker on the Crush This Monster Truck podcast, myspreadshop.com. It helps us out with our podcast. I'm wearing the Crush This hat. T-shirt behind me says Big Bad and Blown. We're going to get more stuff here in a couple months. Next month, Brad's going to get ready for his wedding and stuff like that. So, I'm going to change my background too. I'm getting tired of seeing my own pillows. What's going on, guys? Thank you for coming on. If you guys have any questions for Steve, he's our guest, Steve Hess, the creator and driver of the Nitemare Monster Truck. It's going to be cool to have him on here. Once again, like I said, go to thespreadshop.com. 6B Apparel. They do make our hoodies. That's $100 a pop. And our crew shirts. We have the new wave and the OG look. That's $100 too. Message the Crush This page, and then we'll hook you guys up with the Crush This hoodies and the stuff like that too. Once again, guys, you're helping our podcast go ahead. You guys have helped our platform to become better. I have a better quality camera, better earphones. Look at that. I mean, thank you. You have to have some cool things to hear. Go on from there. Awesome microphones, stuff like that. Lighting helps our podcast out cool. What I really want to do is transform my boss's meeting room into a podcast area like Dale Earnhardt Jr. or something like that. Just don't tell him. Something like that nature. And then we can buy an airplane for Brad to fly to America back and forth so he can, or a helicopter, just random stuff in his front yard so his wife can just take her hair off and, wondering what vehicle he's going to be in. And then, the next day he has a United States nuclear submarine in the front porch or something like that. I don't know. But let's get to that. I want to personally say I do apologize about, not trying to bring this product that we have, Crush This, more and more and more. I know the monster truck career that I have on the side and then the RC stuff, which the Hall Brothers Racing event was pretty cool in itself too. So thank you for all that. Yes, I have better internet, much better. I upgraded, but still Frontier. Sorry, that's the only place I can get some. So we'll we'll work it out. But I got some better internet, a better computer too. I got my first gaming computer. So thank you to Nathan Smith for helping me out. He does a lot of the Beam and G stuff like that. So once again, thank you. Man, I really hope we have another Kicking It Old School episode. Hope a lot of people would come and watch instead of the other group that wants to interfere on a Tuesday night. We don't do that to them, but they just want to do that to us. Hey, whatever. Screw that. But thank you for all the people that's coming in here to watch. We do appreciate your guys' support. We do appreciate you guys, being on. Ask questions for Steve, like I said. Thank you for Nick Davis and Back Channel Productions for doing another cool videos of Westlab, the old school ones too that he just came out with at like Wichita. Um, the next truck that I'm probably gonna drive is Raminator. Uh, can't get I work for the Hall Brothers. Hotsy. There we go. Raminator Hotsy. I don't know, or Big Boss or the Tank. I don't know. We'll find out later, but none of those, Cameron. Which promoter are you working for now? Anyway, let's see. Man, once again, guys, thank you so much for everything that you guys have done. Once again, Brad's with me. This is gonna be the last episode for the 2022 year for Brad. Brad's getting hitched in December. We're still but actually Brad will be on for one episode, and he's not getting away with it because this year's his challenge year, and he has to do a challenge.
Dang it!
Yeah, you still have to do a challenge. So your wife or fiance gotta let you out for one little bit. So you have to be in the Christmas episode, and you have to do your one challenge that you have to keep the ball rolling. Because I ain't gonna do back-to-back years. No. So or I'll do it. I'll it's my turn to drink
No,
something I don't like.
I'll do it. I'll do it.
All right, so that's one episode in December. I mean, throughout the whole month, Brad has to get busy with everything going on. But there for the Christmas one, Brad, you gotta pick your poison, and this is your decision. So once again, and can't be eggnog.
Nope.
We can't. I know you guys like the eggnog jokes and stuff like that, but the man only could do so much eggnog. So you gotta pick something. Maybe V8.
I'll figure something out. It'll be some food challenge. I'll do something.
Why not we do this? I got the awesome idea. Why can you do this? Get a bunch of stuff in a hat. Get a mixer. And whatever you pick out of the hat, you got to mix it in the blender. And then that's what you have to drink.
I will debate. I will think about that. Because you got to remember, I am getting married.
Wait. That's what I have to do next year.
That's what you have to do. Year.
You have to do a food. I have to do a drink.
Yeah, I'll do a food challenge. I'll do a food challenge.
I will do that next year for people. I will get a hat full of names in the hat. I will pick it out and I will blend it together and I will drink it.
Okay, that's you for next year. I'll do a food challenge. I'll figure it out.
Okay, my bad. I got a little confused there. So you're doing a hard food challenge, no drink.
I'll do a hard food challenge, but for now I'll go back in the background because we're doing our intro.
Does anyone want him to do a nitro berry? Nitro, since he's in that nitro stuff, how about gummy bear? Nitro gummy bear? Come on, let's do this, people. So, anyway, I'm getting dirty looks, but guys, thank you so much. We're gonna play some cool ads going on here, and we'll go from there. But once again, guys, thank you for everyone that has helped out. Thank you from High Octane Coffee. Go take a look at Joe Sylvester's stuff. Awesome stuff. Awesome coffee. His place in Youngstown and Canfield. Go show some love. JConcepts, he just came out with some cool tires that just came out. Awesome stuff. Officially licensed by Bigfoot USA 1 Samson. JB Scale Graphics, Bigfoot, Overkill, Obsessed, Bad Habit. New stuff's coming out right now. I think High Roller, and then the Snakebite, new Snakebite front clip and wrap too. Go take a look at that stuff. Some old school in general also. So once again, folks, thank you for everyone that has helped out with this podcast. Show some love. Go to the Spreadshirt shop. Buy some merchandise. Connect with us through 6B. Buy some merchandise through 6B. Help us out to grow this podcast so we can become better. And more equipment, a better way, easier way for us, that make this entertaining and, help you guys out alongside the road. None of me talking, but now we're going to do some intro and we're going to bring the 2022 Hall of Famer, Mr. Steve Hess and Nitemare. So after these banners and stuff like that, we'll have Steve on right this second. So here we go.
This isn't your typical motorsports podcast. You're listening to Crush This, a monster truck podcast presented by High Octane Coffee and JConcepts, a show where we take you inside the minds of your favorite drivers, past and present, of the monster truck industry. And now, your hosts, Brad Shaw and Dan Cheech. Buckle in. The show starts now.
Hey, welcome to a brand new episode of Crush This, a Monster Truck podcast. My name is Brad Shaw, also known as the Monster Truck Inductee. Beside me virtually is Mr. Dan Cheech, crew chief and driver for Hot Brothers Racing. And below us is the 2022 Hall of Fame inductee, Mr. Scott Hess. Scott, how's it going tonight, man?
You mean Steve?
Steve, sorry. My brain,
Sorry.
I will apologize. My brain has been on overload because of this wedding planning. As you can see here, let me show you guys.
Let's nail this in the butt. Steve and Scott are not related.
Correct, but we are best of friends. He is truly a good competitor, but like a brother to me, even though we're not related. I owe a lot to him. When I was in need of a shop to go to, he opened his doors for a couple of years when we ran out of the Scott's shop for a couple of years. So his family is really dear to me.
Well, my apologies on getting it mixed up. My brain has been on overload planning this wedding, and that's all my brain has been the last couple of weeks. So, let's start from the beginning. That's what we normally do on the show here. How did you get involved in this sport, in this crazy world, how did you get into it?
Well, we had the four-wheel drive shop there in Roanoke, Indiana, and we were doing jamborees and advertising nationwide and Peterson's in the four-wheel drive magazines. And obviously, our street truck took off with, we had 12 inches of lift, totally ended up with 15 inches of lift. So we campaigned that at the jamborees to promote the store, and we were doing some events around Fort Wayne, Indiana, and Aaron Polborn from Concepts called and said, "Hey, we're going to do a monster truck show in Fort Wayne, Indiana, and we're looking for 10 trucks to do tug of war. And would you use your truck and find 9 more trucks so we could do tug of war?" So that's how we got started. We took a truck to the Fort Wayne Coliseum and started doing tug of wars. And that started my career with Aaron, and worked for Aaron that whole season with the street truck.
So we go with the street truck, and then what convinced you to start building the popular Nitemare 2 that you would normally see on now in the late 80s and stuff like that? Was the street truck converted to the monster truck, or was that a whole complete different project?
It was a whole complete different project. It got started, running with Excalibur and the other trucks. I really watched what Dave and Mike were doing with that truck and probably admired it. As well as, seeing the Bigfoot truck at the Jamboree. I'm like, boy, I'd like to have one of them. Well, towards the end of that winter season, K&K Insurance was going to they said they would not allow Aaron to do tug of wars any longer because we'd go into arenas and literally burn trucks down. I mean, they would burn their transmissions up, throw drive shafts, U-joints. I mean, it as we progressed and people more seen it, it got crazier and crazier, and it got to where it wasn't safe for the crowd. And so, I said in the middle of summer, I'm thinking about building a truck. And it came to fall, and we were doing a show, and Mike come up to me and he says, "You building a monster truck?" And he said, "Don't fib to me." Not get out as a 5-ton truck. You got to put planetaries. I'm like, what in the world's planetaries? Back then, we were just still running 5-ton trucks. And he said, "Well, you need to come to Toledo. I got a set to sell you." So, before we even had the truck done, we went up to Mike's, we got planetaries, got them back, and we did our first show in February with Aaron at the Fort Wayne Coliseum.
So before we almost booed myself out here, Mark Peterson, the owner and driver of the Reptoid truck. Hey, Mark, how you doing, bud? He wanted to know what year did you actually build your first monster truck, and that was what, 85. Okay.
Yeah, 86. Mm-hmm. Yeah, we bought a brand new truck off the Chevrolet lot. It was 8-foot bed, regular cab, 6-cylinder. Took it home, put it in the shop, and started tearing it apart.
Man, that's so cool.
So, this past September, I got to go to the Indianapolis Jamboree for the first time. And, that event, it's not as same with the monster trucks anymore, but it's still a legendary event. How are the Jamborees in that early time? When you mentioned you've seen Bigfoot there and stuff. How was, seeing, the early days of the Jamboree and the monster trucks, and how it's evolved since then?
So much of the industry was so brand new. You would see anywhere from 300 to 500 street trucks there, and the monster trucks were just starting to get going. The Bigfoot and King Kong and the early trucks that first started coming out. So everybody was awed. Nobody had seen monster trucks, and so we were just crushing cars, not doing a lot, and then every event, spring, summer, and fall, we just started enhancing what we were doing from one thing to another. But before we go any further, I want to personally thank Mark for, at the Hall of Fame, he purchased the helmet that all the drivers signed, and the Hall of Fame signed the face mask. He presented that to me and brought me to tears that night. Mark's a fantastic guy and a friend that I will call for life, and I cherish what he did for me.
Man, that's awesome. Thank you, Mark. And he's a good friend of mine too, and he has helped me throughout my young Tinder as of right now. Let's go a little bit in depth with the Jamborees, because I'm very curious. Because I with being in the Hall Brothers, we're used to the straight line monster truck kind of side of everything like that. But when you were kind of in the trenches and growing this product to in the future becoming a destination for a lot of the 4-wheel drive mud racer and monster truck people, you guys did a bunch of different stuff. Like for instance, I kind of talked to you earlier. I saw a video on YouTube that you guys did a tire changing competition at one of the Jamborees, the monster truck corrals, stuff like that. Can you talk about like the little different challenges that the promoter or the people at the Jamborees were thinking for you guys to do? Like I seen you guys did like obstacle courses with hills and different styles of just different variations on testing the waters of the capabilities of your guys' trucks.
And that's true. We did. When we first started, or when I remembered still having the street truck, basically it was one set of cars at the show. The next event in the summer, then we added a second. And then in 87, I believe in Rockford, we did the challenge where we had the obstacle course. We had the Matterhorn, we had turns, had cars. So we were timed on the obstacle course. Then we had the tire changing, the pit crew, just like a NASCAR. We would get in the truck at a starting line. We had to run up to like our pit. The driver had to get out, the crew guy's pumping the truck up. The driver would take the lug nuts loose. We had to pull the tire off completely, put the tire back on, tighten the lug nuts. And as he was tightening them up, letting the jack down, I was getting back in the truck to take off to the finish line. And that was a time event. And then they also had this show and shine at the same time. So it was like 3 different events and accumulated points throughout the year. So it was probably the first time of starting a kind of a point series back then.
Eventually, throughout the years, especially in the late 80s, the racing aspect, started becoming more towards the forefront. You had TNT, Hart Productions and such like that. What were your earliest kind of memories of, doing the side-by-side racing and seeing, and as well, throughout the years, the advancements in technology of suspension, horsepower, what do you remember about those early days of the racing aspect?
Well, the first Nitemare 2, we had 10 shocks per wheel on that and a 15-inch leaf spring, 2-3 inches of travel, maybe. And so we hit the first set, you would bounce just like a basketball between the first set and the second set. And hopefully you were settled down by the time you hit the second set, because you knew when you landed again, you were going to bounce. And then moving up to we went to
Hello?
Oh, I hope we didn't lose him.
Oh, okay. I thought maybe it's my internet.
Nope.
You there, Steve? Nope,
Yep,
you're good. All right. I'm so used to my internet crapping out that I thought it was me for a second. So I was watching Brad's facial expression, and Brad
I was doing the same for you, Cheech.
Yeah, I know.
Well, you got to realize I'm clear down here in Florida, and unfortunately, with the hurricanes, our internet down here is very weak. I've only got 1.5 bars, but we're trying to stay connected for you.
Hey, no problem. Thank you very much for doing that. Let me go from my another backstory question here. For you, Steve, you're a very, not a lot of trucks were still around. Trucks were coming up the woodwork, in the late 80s, Gravedigger and Carolina Crusher and, Mad Dog and stuff like that. And it seemed like you in your truck Nitemare was in the forefront of keeping up or able to beat Bigfoot. It seem like it's us against Bigfoot, the world against Bigfoot type deal. And with you having your truck being that stout, what did you learn that have your truck? What did you learn when you were putting your truck together or adding parts to it to make it durable, make it a truck that when people saw you there at the show, that they better bring their lunch bag? Was that you looking at the Excalibur truck, because the Excalibur truck was one of the first to beat Bigfoot in a performance show? Was it just looking at the Bigfoot trucks in general? Was it looking at other trucks or creating your own ideas? What made your truck Nitemare 2 a very, very competitive truck that was a top tier truck back in the day?
Well, we were the only truck that I'm aware of still in existence that took a stock frame and plated it completely. We made a box frame over the original frame, because I knew going after GMC, I wanted to look as original as a stock truck you'd see on a dealership. And that was probably instrumental for me getting the GMC sponsor, because they were very, very committed to professional grade trucks. So they wanted it. And when we met finally, and the sponsor kit came available, They wanted to stay as close as a truck that they'd see at the dealership. So that's why we were probably a little bit behind going to fiberglass just to, keep the GMC professional grade truck out there.
It's like that old saying, race on Sunday, sell on Monday.
Yeah.
Let's talk about a comment here from our good friend Mark Werner. It says, what did it mean to win the 1988 Special Events Triple Crown against Bigfoot, USA 1, and others? Talk about, that whole season with the special events in 1988, and then eventually winning that Triple Crown against a stout lineup. Like he says there, Bigfoot, USA 1. What did it mean to you to win that championship at that time?
Well, they had told us in the spring that we were going to run a series, and we would accumulate points in the spring, summer, and fall. And I'm like, oh wow, that would be just ironic if we could win something like that. So we poured our heart into it. Brian Kahn, my nephew, basically was the main crew guy. My son, Kurt, he was there. Obviously my wife, supporting us from the background, and Matthew. But we worked very diligently to try to keep ahead. And thankfully, we had our racing, and we had a freestyle, and we had show and shine. And obviously with the chrome on the truck, and you never ever seen my truck with dirt on it before a show. I didn't care if we did a show in the morning, we were going to do one in the afternoon. It came back out just as clean as it did in the morning. So that's probably one advantage I had going into the Triple Crown. We took first place in the show and shine at all the events, and come out in the fall, we were, I think, pretty close tied with Bigfoot and USA, and ended up at the end of the show beating everybody by 5 points. And at that point, it was, the highlight of my career, as well as in '88, we won the long jump contest in front of the grandstands in Indianapolis. We had jumped further than any truck had jumped so far. Obviously then that changed as years progressed. But yeah, it was the biggest honor. I have a Rose Bowl ring from special events to show that. And so, yeah, that was really, really awesome.
And then talk about, some of the television performances that you were able to do back then too. Heart production shows that were syndicated on television, from, running in Allentown, where people, the first time and I ever saw, the wheel came off of your Nitemare truck and you almost rolled it against Mad Dog, to a point where later on in '89, you won the Indianapolis Special Events Show with a stout lineup with, the Bigfoot 8 monster truck with, Scott Hess and Barefoot. What a stack lineup that was. How did you feel about taking the advantage of the opportunity of getting the Nitemare name to the public?
It was, we really worked hard with, back then with GMC. We had Trailmaster as a sponsor. Trailmax shocks back in the day was, kind of like what Fox and some of the, the shocks you see on vehicles today on the lifted trucks. So we were honored to have them too, and we picked up Penda Bedliner. I went to SEMA for Penda Liner and Trailmaster out there, and then went out to LA and did shows with the boys out there with Golden States, and then obviously on up to San Francisco and went to Hawaii with John Borla, great promoter, and it was a great time there. But getting back to that, to win against them guys were just probably some of the biggest highlights of racing. We didn't do a lot of TV, we didn't do a lot of USA, or we did a few, truck and tractor power, some, but we were pretty much committed, that truck totally to Concepts with Aaron.
Nice.
What one cool thing is, especially in that time, you had Ford with Bigfoot. You had USA One that had Chevy, and you were running early, and you mentioned a couple times you were running the flagship for the GMC people.
Mhm.
You know, and having them on board with you, you know, what did that mean for you? Because, you know, at that time, is you look at NASCAR, NHRA, brand supremacy was the big thing throughout all of motorsports. What was it like to run for the GMC people and, you know, have them on your side? And as well as you mentioned Penda going into the Penda Point series, you know, what did it mean for you to have these sponsors behind you, you know, supporting you in this time?
I've really felt honored. You know, I was obviously a big NASCAR fan and NHRA fan. So you've seen Chevrolet and Ford being represented in the industry or in the monster truck industry, but nobody was going after GMC to speak of. And so I'm like, wow, if I could be a name brand truck with a name brand manufacturer, this would be something that would be phenomenal for our sport. And not only in myself, but to have, you know, back then there really wasn't anybody doing anything with Dodge yet. But, you know, then Dodge came in, you know, this a little bit later. But to have all three brands and to be all three of us being competitive, I thought was really enhanced the industry. And then as we've seen, like Penda coming in to do the Penda line, because we worked really hard at SEMA talking to Penda and special events, you know, they were like, well, we'd have to kind of pull away from you as a sponsor to do a series. And I said, that would be fine. You know, I wanted to promote the sport. And if that meant I was going to lose some of that sponsorship or all of it, I was fine with that to run a series of true racing, just like what NASCAR, NHRA, IHRA were doing. I wanted to see our sport continue to grow.
So, for instance, you know, me working for Hall Brothers, we do a lot of Ram, Chrysler, Dodge, Jeep, Ram displays. Do a lot of stuff outside of the monster truck world. When you had GMC as your backing, did you have to do the same thing? Go a bunch of GM dealerships, you know, farm and progress shows, state fairs, just to bring the truck to the public eye.
We did, you know, pretty much all of our commitment was to GMC dealers. They promoted their professional grade truck. So we didn't really do a lot of fairs or progress shows. Pretty much like when we would go into an event, you know, we would do a display on Thursday at the GMC dealer, and then, you know, Friday we'd close it up, take it to the arena and get going. So that was probably really the main commitment that I had with them, and obviously running the brand. You know, the semi was painted with GMC colors, and, you know, even before we went with GMC, you never see one of my crew guys that were not in either a clean shirt or a racing shirt, and clean pants. And when we set the truck up, we were, you know, GMC jumpsuits, GMC shirts. So we represented, I thought, the GMC brand very, very well.
You know, quick shout out there on Jerry Richmond's in the chat. What's up, Jerry? You know, awesome dude. Jerry is, you know, one of a kind individual. You know, going into the 90s, especially with the Penda Point series, you know, you had trucks like Bigfoot 8 come out, the Taurus 3. You know, what were your thoughts seeing these trucks, like highly technically you know, advanced trucks coming into the sport at the time, and you're still in, you know, a leaf spring style truck? What was your thought seeing, you know, the sport advancing, you know, as fast as it was at that time?
Yeah, I was really caught behind the scenes, or maybe a little bit behind, because, you know, Jerry Richmond with Terminator, Lethal Weapon, you know, he built the second and third truck and the fourth truck. Jerry, you know, we talked after we seen the trucks going from leaf spring to coilovers, and I'm like, Jerry, we've got to do this to be competitive, because I could see we were falling further and further behind. And if I didn't do a coilover truck, you know, we were going to be out of the questions of being able to run with Aaron with special events and stuff. But yeah, that year, that transition from leaf spring to 92, bringing out the coilover truck, we were running behind. I mean, we kept putting more horsepower to it, but we could never get the bounce out. So the recoil, and we couldn't get it back down the ground, get the horsepower to the ground to get to that second set. So we knew, came out of a show in New York, and Jerry and my wife and Jerry and his wife, we were sitting in a Denny's. And I said, Jerry, we got to build a race truck. I've just got to have a race truck to be competitive. And so Jerry picks up the napkin at the restaurant and starts drawing out a tube frame truck. So we always laugh, Jerry built Marty's truck, the Overkill truck, at the same time he was building mine. With Marty was doing a lot. And, we always said my truck come out better being a napkin truck than it was a computer drawn truck.
So when you're doing that and then you're putting the pieces together and stuff like that towards the truck, Jerry was becoming a manufacturer, becoming what Dan Patrick is today, Eddie, all sorts of what the monster truck world is today. Jerry was that guy. Shout out Jerry. What's going on, buddy? And the Ohio, Indiana connection, tons of monster trucks came out of that area and that stable. How did it feel having, his equipment? He had built your trucks beforehand, but he went to the next step and see that, the truck that was on the AKA napkin became a blueprint for a lot of trucks that you see today, like the Nitemare Express, Nightmare 2, Liquidator, I'm thinking Rap Attack. A lot of these trucks that you see in the mid 90s to the late 90s, early 2000s came out of that shop in Ohio. So, how did that feel for you, to know that the technology was, true to its tested?
Oh, Jerry was a thinker and could see it in his mind. He didn't need a computer. He didn't need a drawing to show him, the fall and the rebound. And sadly, what probably stopped Jerry from being the Dan Patricks of the world was the devastation of the fire at Jerry's shop that destroyed everything that he had. And, it was just so tough for him to start over. But, I got in that truck and I never in my life ever had to worry that a weld was going to break. Never once was there a crack in any of my frames. The worst thing I ever had was we were in Glens Falls, New York with a race truck at that time. And we hit the first set of cars. Well, it was indoors, so we only had one set. But when the rear tires hit the cars, the Heim joint busted right at the frame. And when I landed, all I had was the front wheels. The back tires were back at the beginning of the cars. And we loaded that up in the truck that night. I drove to Jerry's shop. Next morning, Jerry comes into the shop and, "Oh, what are you doing here?" I got a little repair that I need done on the truck. He's like, "Oh, you always need a little repair." And I said, "I know. This one I don't think it's going to be too bad. I broke a Heim joint." He's like, "Oh, that can't be bad." So I opened the doors. I think Jerry about fell on the ground at that point because he said, "Are you kidding me, Hess? You're bringing me this without a complete rear end."
Jerry just popped in the chat there, says, "I won't ever forgive you for that."
Exactly. I'll tell you, it was guys like Jerry that opened his house too. And I stayed with him, either with him in his house or in my monster truck or in a hauler at his shop. Again, another brother that, I owe so much to in this industry, because without him, without Scott Hess, my career probably would have failed because, we just didn't have the shop, I had left and it was, didn't have a shop to work in at that time. So between Scott and of course, Jerry, I was working with Jerry before, and every truck he built for me was fantastic. And, I trusted my life with him and never once did I have any problem. To this day, I love him as a brother. And another gift that was given to me at the Hall of Fame was by Jerry. He purchased the picture of the truck, the Nightmare 3 at the auction and brought it over and gave it to me. And I thought he wanted me to sign it. He's going to take it home, put it in the shop, and says, "Here, you paid me to build it. this is for you. So I'll tell you, Jerry and Mark both brought me to tears that night. It was an honor to be inducted, but the two gifts from Jerry and Mark will never be forgotten in my life, or my wife's, or my family. My family, they had tears in. Even the guests I had there couldn't believe that them two men went above and beyond what they did for me.
You know, in that time period, how much testing went into the new truck? You know, you see obviously footage of Bigfoot always testing their trucks back in the day, and other teams. How much testing went into, you know, that the tube frame chassis before it was debuted?
Very little, but because after Jerry got it all done, I took it to a shop in where I was living in Ohio, and we painted it there. Jerry's brother Jeff came down. We painted it. So we run it around in the cornfield a few times just to check out suspension and that stuff before we mounted the body onto it. And all of a sudden, the rear ends are just smoking. And so got it back in the shop, and somebody said, "Did we put any oil in them rear ends?" And sure enough, we had. And there was no oil. It was so hot you couldn't touch the pumpkins on them. But put oil in them and never had any problem. But there was basically, once we got the body on it, we didn't even have the front.
Ooh.
I lost him there again.
Yeah, that hurricane in Florida is. Hopefully he gets back on there, folks. If you have any more questions, feel free to ask. See you there, Colby. Wayne, what's going on? Chris, what's up, guys? Thank you for being on here right now. Numbers are getting up too, so well, let's see if we can have them on here, and a little bit frozen there, but
Yep.
But man, Brad, look at you all. Look like a mafia dude about to get some people. Bang.
I'm just somewhat professional at work, so
Yeah.
You know, can't be wearing. I'm allowed wearing whatever I want Fridays, but normal day, just trying to be professional. Oh, he's back.
He's back.
Sorry, guys, I did move over here, maybe a little closer. Sadly, we just can't get internet here where we're
It's
at.
all right. No problem.
But,
we're still going strong. We got 42 minutes in.
Okay. But yeah, we did very little, like I said, we just did testing without the body on it. We put the body on it, loaded in the trailer, and headed for Evansville, Indiana for our first show with the race truck, and come out of there winning that night. The truck was phenomenal. You could do donuts, you could crush cars, you could land. It was the softest landing truck, to the day I had been in. So especially with the front engine truck, all the other trucks were going rear engine. And Jerry's like, "You don't want a rear engine?" I'm like, "No, I can't with GMC. I want to stay true and original as much as I could." And so till I got the opportunity to run Marty's Overkill, I never had drove a rear engine truck. I will probably maybe one more time take a ride. Alan Pizzo's offered me anytime I wanted to take one of his trucks for a crush. So maybe this summer, we'll see health-wise. If everything stays healthy, I'll try to do that. I want to make one more ride. If Jim Kramer can do it, Steve Hess can do it.
You just heard that here, folks. You just heard that here. So Steve Hess also is going to do one more run, and you put that on the social media stuff too. So hopefully we'll see that in the summertime with health and everything like that. But we get to see Steve Hess do that. So the quick question here is, what did you learn from the transition from the Leafer, your last Leafer truck, Nitemare 3, to the new race truck? I mean, I'm not gonna say anything bad about the your last Leafer, because that was state of the art for a Leafer truck in general in that time period. Probably one of the top. The history of your truck still running today as Red Rock somewhere in the United States. Maybe people on Facebook can help out, but it was a Thunderstruck. It was a couple other trucks, but I think now it's Red Rock out east. Uh, and that truck's longevity is still there. I mean, like I said, for the longest time in the early '90s, I mean, that Thunderstruck truck that you sold the Kurt, or yeah, I think so, the Kurt, it ran until, I mean, it was still a competitive truck. So I got off topic there, but the transition of your driving style, you said you did some little bit of testing and then went to Evansville. And so talk about how you had to transition your driving style from driving the Nitemare 3 truck to the coilover race truck.
Well, Jerry would say, he said, Steve, when you move from the leaf spring truck to the coilover, you're gonna feel unbelievable. And I prepared when I went to hit the cars that first time that it was going to be like a leaf spring truck. I kind of grabbed the steering wheel a little bit tighter, and we hit that first set and it like flew. And when we landed, I'm like, holy smoke, it's not bouncing, and it's settled right down. It was phenomenal. I guess it would be like getting out of a Chevette and getting into a Cadillac. It definitely was night and day from the leaf to the coilover. And it was just the early coilover. Marty's technology was better than mine, and then it's just continued to advance. The industry is just, they ask at the Hall of Fame, do you see this as the end of it? And I say no. I see the industry continue to grow. If you'd have told me 30 years ago we'd be running them over backwards, flipping them over, 86, Archie Kaufman in Kentucky, and he's like, you need to build a ride truck. I said, that's for sissies. Nobody had ever owned a ride truck. And now today, these guys are making fortunes off of ride trucks. I wish I listened to Archie in his all his ways back in the old days.
Now, before Scott, how crazy was it to think about you're going to clear 6 to 7 cars only with a 10-foot run up?
Yeah, it was phenomenal. I just never fathomed we could do something like that. I mean, we would get close to clearing them with a leaf spring truck and then hold on. In fact, even at Evansville, Willie tried to do that. He tried to clear it, and when he landed, the front tires, the back tires just hit the cars. He brought it up on the front tires and tried to get it stopped, and it went over backwards, or went over back. The bed kept coming over and actually landed, right there on the fence of the stadium. So, it was just phenomenal. It was great. We ran that winter with Aaron with that truck, and we did very well with it. And we then left the winter shows. We headed up to Canada, and at that time my son was 2 years old, and it was time I wanted to watch him grow up. And we started back in the RV business, but Marty wanted me to get his truck into the jamborees. So we went down and picked up Marty's truck in McAllen and ran the jamborees. And we did a show in, Jerry could tell me, I believe it was Mansfield, or no, it was Canton, Ohio. And I looked over Jerry, he was in the other truck, and I said, how are you going to run tonight? And he just shrugged his shoulders. I'm like, oh, great. So it was overkill, 2 trucks in the final. And obviously I had to run as hard as I could. And only one because I was in the better truck, because when you lined up with Jerry, you knew when he put his helmet on, his brain went to his foot and ran as hard as he could. So, but, we all were great competitors on the track. But I tell you what, it's a band of brothers after you're over the finish line. If your truck was broke, especially with the Thunder National guys, if we could possibly get that truck ready for the next round, everybody was there. Crew guys, drivers, to get the guys. We all wanted to work and please the crowd. And I think we did. I think the Thunder National trucks, to me, were the best trucks in the industry. We were the only trucks that really hit solid, fresh cars. We didn't have any sissy hills to crawl over. We hit solid cars every weekend, every night, and our trucks didn't break very often. It was always a mechanical failure, transmission or drive shaft, but never the trucks.
Well, we have somebody here that Jerry Richmond says, I'm in. I'll kick their butts. So maybe if somebody out there is listening, do an event. Jim Kramer, Steve Hess, Jerry Richmond. Let's get even Marty Garza out there. Let's get an event going. To
Colby just said it there, Brad. Look at that.
Yeah, that Colby said it perfectly. Let's try to make something happen, because I think it should be documented. With because how they did with the TNT thing. Let's do something like this with the Thunder Nationals, because Thunder Nationals is such a special time in the sport. There's been I think it's Nick Davis is making a documentary on it. What do you think made the Thunder Nationals so special and just different? Like, who knows? Maybe who was the owner of Rambo? Bill Weaver?
Yes.
Yeah, I don't know. Get them involved. Like, make a whole deal out of it. But what made the Thunder Nationals such a special time in the sport?
I really think it was Aaron and the show that he put on. It was fast paced. He expected, and we demanded ourselves that our trucks were perfect every time. He didn't hire any. If your truck was always breaking or was going to always break, you weren't going to be at the show. He put on a show for the fans, from opening the show with the laser shows, during Desert Storm with God Bless America, Lee Greenwood song. You'd go out there and see all the lights on the cameras, or back then you still had cigarette lighters. Them days brought tears to your eyes. Still the patriotism that people had for the United States, and that we still do. With the soccer game, look, we won. But Aaron did a good show. He put on an entertainment, but yet it was fierce racing and expedition. So he did a wonderful job, and the Thunder National guys went above and beyond to please him.
Man, they hear the stories of the Thunder Nationals and stuff like that, and the names that pop up was always like Black Stallion, Nitemare, Overkill, War Wagon. The popularity of what you guys did, and you guys ran hard, always got the attention for so many people, including myself as a fan. And how you think that even when you stepped down and you went back to the RV business, how awesome was it to see that promotion and that group still was running and kicking with, like, Tim Tesmer in there, and then later on, early on you had Charlie Pauken, and then then Dave Rappage. It's the longevity of the program.
Yeah, it really did. We seen that next generation coming in. Jeff Cook and Rollin and Brian drove for Bigfoot, and so we seen that kids that idolized us becoming drivers and advancing themselves. I think that was what was so neat, to see that second generation. And now we even see some third generation, in the industry. You look at Dennis and his boys, and, some of that. So I really think the monster truck industry is a family-oriented business, that you see the generations that have moved up. Maybe not, being a family as far as blood relationship, but the love for the sport. Kids that, like yourself, you idolized us when we were Leaf Spring trucks and starting into coiled, and now you have the opportunity to drive a Hall Brothers truck with all the advancements that are out there today.
What are your thoughts on the current state of the sport today? Seeing, the stoppies, nose wheelies, the backflips. What's going through your head when you're seeing a lot of the, stuff that's going on today in the sport?
Well, personally, I like it. I know it needs we've advanced to that stage where the crowd wants to be entertained. They want to see that craziness. But I'm a racer. I still would love to see just true racing side by side versus the exhibition. I like it, but it's one reason why GMC pulled out is, they felt it was becoming more of a sideshow than a professional racing show, and they didn't want to be involved with not being a professional grade truck show.
I hear about, hear that. I mean, with the Ram trucks and stuff like that, we try to make as our racing focus as much as we can. But the name Nitemare, actually, we had a cool story. Let's talk about the name Nitemare. How did it get started? And how do you feel seeing the name continue on after you, like you said, you stepped down to focus on the RV business and trying to see and with your family, but the name continued on in Monster Truck royalty, and it still runs the day with Andy Hoffman. I mean, there was a few times in the 90s that you had two Nightmares going on at the same time. You had Nightmare 2 and Nightmare, but you have Nightmare and the Nightmare Express. Gary Bauer represented that name a little bit too, but the name itself, what was the origins of it, and how do you feel right now with the name still continuing on in the monster truck world today?
Well, the truck got named. We were definitely working, right at the last minute to get into the Fort Wayne show with the truck, and Brian's like, "This has just been a nightmare building this truck." So we're like, everybody looked at each other and said, that's the name. We need to use Nightmare. And so that's where it started. The gentleman that did all my lettering, and he's like, well, you're after kids in the sport. You got to have some kind of a cartoon animal. And I always had an interest in raccoons. My aunt and uncle raised them, so as pets. So we ended up putting the cartoon character on the Nightmare 2, and kind of went from there. He said, "I'm telling you right now, you always have to read the name of your truck in a nosebleed section." So he would take the right colors to get that where you could read the Nightmare name, from the very top of the stadiums. That was something he was insistent on, and the names did that. And then as we grew, as the Penda came on board, Trailmaster, we took the raccoon off of it. I've had a lot of people ask why I didn't go more into the Nightmare, like Gravedigger, have a mask and all that stuff. And I'm pretty laid back and happy guy. And, that just wasn't, an era that I wanted to go into. I stayed on the more of the happy side than to go, more like the Gravediggers and that type of system. So, and I like the name. I'm glad that Gary's doing Nightmare Express. I'm glad that Andy's out there with the Nightmare. I wish he could do more. I would like to see it, get back in the mainstream. But unfortunately, we're all getting a little bit older. We're not young like we used to be. So maybe someday he'll sell it, pass it on to somebody else, and the Nightmare will continue to be out here forever.
Personally, I hope that Colton Kaiser and the American Scout team gets that name. I know they're running one of Andy's old trucks as American Scout. Who are some of your favorite opponents to line up against? In the 80s and then into the Penda series. Who did you like to line up against the most?
Well, probably Excalibur in the beginning. Because at that point, Mike and Dave were the Wonder Boys of Aaron's Thunder Nationals. They were doing more with their truck than anybody else was. Jerry and I were good competitors. Jerry was doing his second show, and I did my first show in Fort Wayne. And Jerry and I continued to go and race each other. And obviously Scott Hess came on board with Hercules. And, Dale Hancock with Crimson Crusher. So the early trucks that we ran with were probably, we were competitors amongst ourselves. And then as we got into the Jamboree, where I was against the Bigfoots and the USAs and No Problem and them guys, obviously trying to beat USA and Bob with Bigfoot was our challenge. And especially myself, we didn't have the money or as big a sponsorship behind us as what, Ford did for Bob, which, hats off. He was the first to be able to get a sponsorship and to do that. So I think if we would have been, I would have loved to seen Jerry and I become where we would have had a series of trucks and would have been out there running. But Jerry's a very successful businessman now. I was up till I retired, and so I'm glad that I'm not in it anymore. I definitely wouldn't want to do backflips.
I have a two-parter here, and I was just curious. Our deal with Ram, we have, also Chrysler, Dodge, and Jeep, and there's a little bit sometimes where the head honchos of Ram want, Jeep has something going on, and you get competitive, being like, we're gonna beat Jeep. Back in the 80s, when you had the GMC deal, were they wanted you to be like, okay, if you line up against USA 1 or, Barefoot, we want you to take them out. Even though you guys are under the same umbrella of the GM format, you guys are still separate compared to Chevrolet. So was there anything going on, saying, hey, they're talking to you saying, if that truck was at the show, obviously, Ford is always going to be a competition with Bigfoot, but, within the group of the GM world, was there any, take that out type aspects?
No, they weren't. They were just fantastic. With the support of Hydromatic transmissions, we actually had Pontiac as some of as a little bit there, only because they loved the truck business. So no, they never told me, hey, we want to see you take out USA because, we want to sell more trucks on Monday than Chevrolet does. I think the truck and myself proved that, we were competitive enough that they didn't have to tell me what to do. I'm probably like Jerry when I put my wife will tell you to this day, I'm competitive, and when the helmet does go on, my brain goes to the foot also, or to the hand if it happens to be a motorcycle. But, once we jumped out of the monster trucks, we went back into drag racing for a few years until, my reaction times were getting, it's like they weren't where they needed to be when we were a little bit younger.
Now, here's another question. I know that in the 90s, Don, the Snake Perdome's team, Top Fuel team, was sponsored by GMC. Did you ever get to interact with the Snake and Larry Dixon and that team at all?
No, we really didn't. I was able to do, obviously when GM built a new facility in Fort Wayne, Indiana, we did the grand opening of that plant, did the picnic. We went up to Detroit or Ypsilanti and did some car shows up there. So we did some of them, but no, we didn't really interact with any of the other motorsports they were involved with. They kind of kept that separate, each identified as different avenues.
So let's go ahead and talk about the 2022 Hall of Fame. I'm sorry I let you know that we're between 45 to an hour. We just surpassed an hour, but still we have right now still about a good number of people watching this. They love monster trucks. The fans that we have are diehard fans. Thank you again for being on. I did a 3-hour episode last year at the Hall of Fame, interviewing Vodders, Tim Hall, Mike, Deal Wilson, Bob Chandler. But for you, the 2022 Hall of Fame, it came full circle. It something that probably back in the 80s and the early 90s when you're driving a monster truck, probably didn't think this would come about. But for you, getting the information about becoming a Hall of Famer, and then getting to speak to your peers, what how did you I don't know how to ask this question, but for you, Steve, you know, what does that mean to you now being in the group with like Dennis Anderson, Mark and Tim Hall, Alan Pizzo, Deal Wilson, so many great people that have helped pave this sport, and you're one of those people too.
It, it really was the honor to finish my career. Like you said, if you'd have asked me in 86, 87, 88, do you think there will ever be a Hall of Fame or a museum dedicated to the monster truck? I would have told you no. This is a fad. It's going to be over with. Hats off to Jeff Cook and the organizations, Alan and Ross and them guys for concept of doing the museum. We spent a few years there in Auburn at Cruise Auction, and then the opportunity to buy our own facility is just phenomenal. And to see the men that have been inducted, somebody would say last year, 2 years, 3 years ago, I had been nominated, I think 2 or 3 or 4 years. That doesn't make any difference. And like, well, why didn't you go out there and really try to, I'm like, I want to be voted in by my peers. That would be the greatest honor that I got. And that was the honor this year, to get in front of 300 people and have 3 standing ovations. Just unbelievable. I wish I could have been more of a comedian like Don Maples, but it was an honor that I will cherish, as well as what Mark and Jerry did. I will cherish that night for the rest of my life. My family will. I thank you guys for this opportunity to be on tonight. And Brad, congratulations on your upcoming wedding.
Thank you.
Like the rest of us, from now on, you'll say, honey, what do you want me to do? Instead of, do this.
Oh, yeah. Trust me, I'm already saying that now.
And for me, for instance, I like to try to keep the longevity of the sport together in the modern times. On my mind's always gonna be race format. Everything else is just to do what I need to do. But I really want to focus on what the past has gave me the chance of going, what I've been doing when I was a young kid. Seeing all the awesome monster truck racing. Just the time to just do that. And for me personally, I like to thank you and everyone like that, and just paving the way for, you could tell there's only one, there's one technically modern day truck behind me, and I don't know who drove that one. But the rest of them are like, Gen 3s from the early 90s, and the rest of them are, the
old school trucks.
Old school trucks. So, that means so much to me to see, all this stuff, because, I personally think that you could still get a steel body monster truck, crush some cars, and I still think you'll get a crowd of a bunch of people at a parking lot if you do it today, still right now.
Oh, I totally agree. I think there's enough people that love the old school trucks. That would not even be. You would pack the crowd. You would pack an arena with old school trucks if they were available out there. But unfortunately, all of us started back then are getting to the age where now we're beyond being able to get into it. I can't even crawl up the tire at the summer show that Jeff put on up at the museum. I did crawl up the tire, but I went back to the pits and I told them, hey, get me a ladder. The crowd can't see me, so I can get out of this thing.
My last question for you is, if you were able to line up against anybody right now, let's, in a dream scenario, who would you line up against and why?
Wow, that's a loaded question, but there's so many guys that that I can think of just real fast. Jerry, Scott, Jim, definitely Mike, with Excalibur, just because, he was a man I tried to beat all the time. And a lot of people, Mike shares it, and Mike broke his back twice racing me, just to win a race. So, Mike and I had a lot of competition back in the early days. So I would say them guys, would be the guys that I would really like to line up against if I had to line up. But I'm not sure that my old body could take that anymore.
This is my last question, and thank you for everything that you have done. I will love to have you back on for a Thunder National talk. I know Jerry would be on instantly. That's two right there. I need two more, probably Vodders and maybe Marty. But what
That would be awesome.
my last question is, I asked Dan Patrick this, and it kind of got to him about it. And I think this is, to me, I want to think, what what do you want to be remembered in the monster truck industry?
Probably probably the guy that was there and tried to make the kids happy and be a team player with everybody. A guy they looked up to, that I went above and beyond to help everybody.
Man, that's so cool to have you on. Thank you for your time, and thank you to your wife for allowing you to do this. Let's just get that. let's get that going there. But
there you go.
It's an honor having you here.
It's my honor.
It was my everyone.
When you reached out, I just hoped that we could make it tonight. I'd changed some plans around so that I could be here, and I knew it was going to be tough with the internet, because literally I come up to the clubhouse is the only place we have internet in the park right now. Sadly, keep everybody in Florida here in your prayers. We're fortunate. We were home when this happened, but 16 of our friends' trailers were destroyed here. Our other campground had 7 foot of water in it. Florida down at, and Jerry can tell you that Fort Myers, down at Fort Myers Beach in that area, it looks like a bomb went off down there. So keep all them people in your prayers, and our servicemen and women, please remember our veterans. That's what gave us this freedom that we can do things like this tonight.
Well, Jerry has one more kind of parting shot saying, I'd whip that ass.
I'll bring it on, big boy.
Well, I'm gonna try to, it's probably be next year, but I would like to have a round table. We do round tables. We didn't do it this year, but we'll do it again next year. We did one with TNT, and then we did one with USA, and we did one with Penna. So we're gonna do one with the Thunder Nationals, and would love to have you on. I know Jerry would be on. I know Marty would be on too. We just need one more guy, and then maybe have Nick Davis on. But once again, Steve, thank you so much. Thank you for what you have done, and thank you for bringing the Nitemare name to the public eye, and representing the professionalism of what we have today with Hall Brothers and Ram trucks that we're trying to get the ball rolling. And back then you had USA One, you at GMC, Bigfoot with Ford, and so mainstream with today's sponsorships that you had, you did a lot for this industry. And once again, thank you so much.
Well, thank you guys. It's been an honor this evening, and being able to honor the guys that being at the Hall of Fame and getting the award wasn't just mine. My crew guys, the fans, from my daughter selling T-shirts to, Brian working on the truck, it wasn't just me. It was a team effort. Jerry behind the scenes doing all that. So the award was fantastic to get, but it was a reward for all the Nitemare people, the fans that were behind me the whole time. And, we love you all, and we wish you all the best, happy holidays. And we will see you, next year. And we definitely would do a Thunder Nationals. I think the group, Jerry, me, Marty, Black Stallion, Mike, I think that would be a great 4 guys to get together to talk about the Thunder Nationals because we all run hard. Maybe even include Willie. He was kind of crazy, but Scott, but definitely the four of us would be the four original guys that would be great to get together.
That'd be awesome.
Well, we got to get Mike Nichols in there. We got to
Yes.
get Mike.
Yes, yeah, we gotta get Mike in too. So I think I know where he's at. He's kind of doing some janitorial stuff at some Hall of Fame in Indiana. So I know I could pick him up. But once again, Scott, thank you so much, and we'll see you down the road. Thank you again.
Thank you, guys. Have a good evening.
We'll do. Well, guys, that was Steve Hess. Thank you so much for what he has done. Thank you for our sponsors, guys. High Octane Coffee, JConcepts, JB Scale Graphics, 6B Apparel, Back Channel Productions, MTRC, Hall Brothers Racing, and Bradley Shaw Design. Sorry, Bradley, I always forget about that. But,
no worries.
I get that brain growing. But once again, guys, please, if you guys can, go to our shop. We're probably going to get new stuff next year. Brad's doing some stuff in December right now with some marriage and other
I wanted to get merch out earlier this year. It's just life kind of got in my way, guys, trying to get a job and everything. I kind of had to focus on that. But
blah blah blah.
But merch will be coming out January. As we said at the beginning, this is my last episode. Besides, one episode next month until the new year. I got to focus on getting married, or as Cheech said, getting hitched.
Signing his life away.
Also, in the new year, there's going to be something coming called the Crush This Cup. Now, what it is I'm putting it together with a couple of buddies. It's going to be a iRacing Pro 4 off-road racing league. It's going to be about 6 races long throughout, a couple of weeks. And, we're still hammering out the details, but it's going to be, anybody can join. It'll be it's a buy-in league. The champion will get probably a trophy and some prize money. So that'll be coming in the new year as well. So if anybody's interested, please let us know. This is something we've been wanting to do for a while, and we're finally pulling the trigger on it as well. So, thank you to everybody that supports us. We've been, doing this for about the last 8 years. Next year will be year number 9. And, because of your guys' support, that's what we do this for. We love bringing interviews like with Scott. I have a list of guests that I want to try to find for next year. I'll just put it out there. If anybody knows the whereabouts of Mr. Andy Brass, let me know. That is.
By the way, I've been getting some messages here. Brad, you have a new attire that you need to stick to.
Oh,
that is for 2023 right there, Brad. There, the tin cup, the Happy Gilmore, the Happy Gilmore Brad look. But still, once again, help us. If you guys can help us out, that's much obliged. That helps us with new stuff, new things to update our program. Feedback. Give us feedback, guys. Give some positive feedback, even negative. If we're doing something wrong, okay. If you message Brad saying Cheech needs to go, well, we'll consider. If you say Brad needs to go, we'll just kick him out. So I mean, it's just different subjects. Feel free to message us and and give us some critiques and what's going on. After this, I'm gonna upload this to our podcast format, and we'll be on our iTunes and Spotify. So if you guys are on the road for the Christmas, we'll get that ball rolling.
Yep.
I will get some guests kicking for the next couple weeks, and then we'll do our Christmas episode with Brad going to do his challenge. That right there. So help Brad out. When is your wedding, Brad?
My wedding is December 17th.
Okay,
so
that's not gonna
that whole week of the 12th to the 12th to the 17th, I'm gonna be flat out busy.
Okay,
so we can even do it December 20th. How about December 20th?
December 20th, yeah.
It will be our Christmas episode. I'll talk to the fiance, well then wife, and figure out what I can do for a food challenge. It may be like a hot wing challenge. Who knows? We'll figure something out. But just like I said, thank you guys for the support. It's cool. you know, I was thinking about it today, you know, how many people we've interviewed, and it's just it kind of boggles my mind, you know, the people that we've talked to on this, and you know, and just thank you to all you guys. And like I said, if anybody knows how to get a hold of Andy Brass, let me know. That is my bucket list interview, and I'm going to try to make it happen.
Oh,
That is that episode would be legendary, because I don't think he's done an interview since Monster Truck Radio back in the day with Jeff Richards. So
we'll try to pull something here and try to do something cool. You know what I mean? It'll be interesting and stuff like that. You know, but we'll get to it, Brad. That's our goal. We're gonna try to get Andy Brass in 2023.
Yeah.
For Mr. Brad Shaw, and then we'll go from there. So if anyone can help us out to get our whereabouts, you know, all this stuff, much obliged, and then we can get the ball rolling and get him on. But once again, folks, thank you for everything that you guys have done. We're gonna get another year here. This podcast once again is gonna be going on the other streams here in the next couple hours. So if you guys want to listen to it on the road, when you guys are on the road seeing family during Christmas time, go ahead. Once again, go to our website to pick up some merch or contact us to go through 6B for our hoodies and our crew shirts. And also, if you guys want some cool designs from Brad, message him and he'll help you out. So once again, guys, thank you so much. Once again, Brad, man, talk to a friend, you know, beat the stigma. And, you know, because I mean, all of us in our 90s, we lost a big time guy in Jason David Frank.
Yep.
Man, the green white ranger, he was my you know, I got jealous of him a little bit for character dating Kimberly. Everyone's crush back in the 90s was Kimberly of the Pink Power Ranger. But you know, it is what it is, and you know, try to beat that, and you know, talk to a friend. And once again, guys, thank you again for what you have done. And then Brad, might as well make this your sign off until the Christmas season, right?
Yeah, definitely. Like Cheech said, you know, talk to a friend. You know, mental health is a number one priority. You know, you never know what somebody struggles with. You know, Jason David Frank, you know, he was going through a lot, and you know, just check up on your friends and family, especially with Christmas coming, because you know there's a lot of people spending it alone, and check up on them. You know, let's make sure that mental health's a priority in this world, and I think we're on our way to do that. But until the Christmas episode / 2023, guys, keep the rubber side down and the shiny side up, everybody. Peace.
Well, we're not done yet. I'm still gonna put people back in line here. We're gonna get episodes going. Brad's gonna be gone for a couple weeks, not the Cheechers.
No,
so,
Cheechers are staying.
The Cheechers are staying. So once again, folks, like Brad said after he cut it out, we are out finally. Good night. Have fun. Keep the rubber side down and the shiny side up. Good night. Peace.